Nothing.
We had a scene in between this, which was a scene between Sigourney comforting a terrorized Veronica, who is really the first member of the crew to begin to lose it. And also it's a very important scene because this is where Sigourney now is in charge. She's next in command. She's taken over from Dallas. And also it's a proving scene for Sigourney because you have Ash, you have Yaphet Kotto, who are obviously wondering whether they can trust her judgment. I remember shooting this, and I remember talking to Yaphet and saying to Yaphet, which is a little unfair, to wind up Sigourney and keep interrupting her. And it was really great because she established her authority. So I think you have a very good takeover here by Sigourney. And Yaphet backs down and is obliged to accept the situation. This really, the film in its simple form, you could argue is the old dark house theory. With 7 little Indians.
You what? You're still collating? I find that hard to believe.
What would you like me to do?
Just what you've been doing, Ash. Nothing.
Felt that's a looped line. That's interesting. It was obviously an addition afterwards that we suddenly realized that we needed that additional line. And I just picked it up. We never covered that, and so we've realized that that is a little bit of explanation. Yeah, there was a scene prepared where we were trying to, and we couldn't afford to do it. We didn't know how to do it at that point in time without CGI and all that assistance. But the idea was to lure it into an airlock and blow it out the airlock. And it got jammed in the door. And it started to burn a hole in the door, and then it tore itself loose and came back in. It would have been a nice sequence to shoot, but we couldn't afford to do that. We had to get extremely financially practical at this point. Always this scene is peculiar because you wonder how Ash got in behind her. So now she has a block. She's not going to get any more information. And she's dipping into basically company records and is not going to get the right answer. So this is where you get the duplicity of the company that, as protection on all of its ships, and this is what I thought was a really great original idea, would plant a humanoid or robot to protect its interests, which is about to be revealed. And there he is.
They're rude. I want to hear your explanation.
Now, what was interesting here, I like Ash reacting to a human emotion by, he wasn't frightened of her, he was backing off. He didn't understand why she was crying. Probably because he'd never seen that before. So that was what you got, that rather peculiar reaction from Ash as he shrinks away from her. Because it's not, why would he be fearful, right? Now we have malevolence, which is even stranger by just adding one simple thing, which just came out in the day. There it is. He's beginning to perspire, and this perspiration is white. I filled the Nostromo with all these toys from the various gift shops around the universe, wherever they'd stopped off. And that's what these little toys were. I always figured that wherever you go, there'll be gift shops. So that's where, that's how the Hawaiian shirt appeared, that's how the dipping bird appeared, and that's the toys. I guess this is the closest thing to seeing a robot have sex. I need to have some show of strength, which was simple but violent. And I think here comes one of the really great ideas in the film, which is having this character on board that you had no idea what he was, and here it's to be revealed. And it also makes sense. If you have interests, financial interests like this, you're going to have something on board there to make sure that you are protected. So he's like a walking transmitter. You hear the death of Ash and the winding down, the whatever's driving him. It's Jimmy Shields' great sounds. A lot of this stuff we had to make up on the day virtually, so we couldn't work out how to kill Ash, so we used one of those cattle prods. And also we left his interior to really be an organic choice, rather than having, you know, steel pipes and things like that. And so I just requested, really it looked like a food table. And I love the glass marbles on the strands and the teeny bits of fiber optics. And of course his blood. Not a bad cut between a head that's not bad to getting the head of Ash actually coming through a hole in the table.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great voice. Yeah, we worked on that forever, trying to find out what would the voice be of this dying robot.
You read it. I thought it was clear.
What was it?
Bring back
It almost has a Doppler effect.
priority one. All other priorities
Spooky.
There's a damn company. What about our lives, you son of a bitch?
This was a speech about, a really doomy speech about the indestructibility of it and the perfection of what they had, what they were against. And this was a scene that was written during photography, because we were never happy about the dialogue that we had. And I think David had to work on this incessantly as we were headed towards the actual day. I think we came up with the words that morning. Or David did.
I admire its purity. A survivor. Unclouded
Unclouded.
by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality.
Kind of a great speech.
I've heard enough of this, and I'm asking you to pull the plug.
Last word. I can't lie to you about your chances, but
Great. That's a pretty tough piece of information at that point.
We're gonna blow up the ship. We'll take our
So now in really, I think, terrifying situation, because big tough Yaphet has suddenly got his 2 women as part of his defense group. So boy, he must have been feeling really vulnerable. There's so much you do which you keep simple, you know, the head on the table, you could have gone crazy with all kinds of stuff underneath it. But actually it was a very simple thing. We just had the mask, finished with it, checked the rushes, went back and incinerated it. That was it. One shot. Today that would cost $1 million. I think it probably cost about 200 quid. This is where I wanted to change the color of the corridors. I was getting fed up. And so I had them sprayed metallic gray, gunmetal gray, with a gold dusting. and just to change and make the corridors more threatening. So on the front of every dolly, because it had to be a quick spray job, and it went a bit flat, and so I had this little box made in the front of the dolly with gold and silver aerosols. So as I lined the shot up, I'd hop off the camera and spray down all the paneling wherever I saw it, on the spot. That was done with a little bit of 16mm. We shot her in a little cockpit set and then simply popped it on the back of the miniature. It's an old helicopter. Yeah, Sigourney, oddly enough, going back for a cat where she's looking for Jones is interesting because it shows a side of Sigourney which is softer, and it's never really been introduced in the film up to now, but I think it was interesting because you started to suspect the cat. So I wanted to keep the paranoia going in every direction now, particularly at the end. When you get to the end, the cat is in the coffin with her, or the hypersleep, or with her. I think most of the audience were convinced that the cat had an alien, the next alien inside it. As the low-key light levels, it's very tricky, because we're pretty well wide open on spherical, anamorphic, and you saw a little bit of out of focus there. It just shows how few takes I was doing. At this point, I was really running against the gun. Great key now. You've got a great cue coming in. And of course here, I wanted to promote the idea that Sigourney was next, which is a pretty obvious thing to be doing at this point. You want to put her in direct jeopardy. And I was always concerned about, would the audience think, why the hell is she going back for the cat? But nobody seemed to question it. Just shows that we've got a whole bunch of animal lovers out there. She touched a seat button. That's what made the seat fly forward. A cheap thrill. But that's what this kind of genre needs, is you've got to keep coming up with original ways of sustaining the tension. And that cat, that cry of the cat there, again was laid in deliberately to promote the idea that was the cat impregnated.